So I wanted to begin. We'll get pretty quickly to questions, all right? But I just wanted to begin, well, a little background, Kristina, on what made you decide to actually do this documentary?
Well, I lost, I was a network producer, and I lost my job at CBS looking into this. It's a long story, but basically the FBI came after me because a little piece of evidence was sent to me for testing.
What was that piece of evidence?
It was a piece of seat foam that had some red residue on it, and I didn't have a chance to test it. There were claims being made that it was solid rocket missile fuel on this piece of seat foam. So I said, okay, I'll test it and see what it is. And so I put it in. I was going to do it for 60 minutes, and even though I was working in the doc unit, and I guess the FBI was bird dogging the FedEx because 2 days later they came, and I had not yet found a lab. So CBS, much to my dismay, and I was obviously very upset about it, they handed it right back to the NTSB. They said it was, the FBI said it was, to the FBI, the FBI said it was stolen evidence, but it actually had not been stolen.
Where did it come from?
One of the parties to the investigation, who was a pilot, was noticing that there were very anomalous things going on inside the investigation, and so he thought maybe this seat foam, this red residue on the seat foam had some significance. And so he wanted it tested, and he didn't trust, I don't know, I guess he wanted people outside the investigation to, to look at it, to have it tested.
Is that what prompted your loss of job at CBS?
Well, when the FBI came, basically what happened was right after they came, I got a phone call and was told that my contract would not be renewed.
And were you told why?
No, I didn't have to ask why either. And besides, even if I had asked, I don't know if I would have gotten a straight answer. But I can tell you that after I left, somebody inside CBS made some phone calls and passed out my number to a bunch of reporters. Because all of a sudden, remember A Current Affair? All of a sudden I was getting calls from, I got calls from serious reporters too, but I was getting calls from people saying, oh, are you the CBS reporter who got kicked out for having some evidence, from the TWA crash? And I didn't talk to anybody. I mean, I was so shocked by that experience.
So who found whom then? Did you find Tom? Tom found you?
We found each other. I mean, I was also assigned to do a piece on TWA for ABC, and I was shut down again. And by that time, obviously I was starting to get very suspicious about what was going on. And then Tom, meanwhile, had his experience watching TV, and so I don't know. We met. I had heard of him because he was starting to gather some serious people with expertise to review reports and to share his experiences interviewing eyewitnesses.
Do either of you have connections to Long Island? Direct connections?
We do now, let me tell you.
Yeah, obviously. Well, Tom, what made you so passionate about this particular story?
I think it shows in the documentary how I got involved. It was just sitting on the couch with my girlfriend and seeing that. Imagine just seeing that CIA animation on prime time.
And you're a pilot, so you...
Well, now I am. I wasn't back then.
You weren't then?
No. I was a grad student, 27 years old. Watching TV, I was a news junkie. I paid attention to the news, but this was weird. This was the CIA talking directly to me. And like I said in the documentary, just odd. And I was a scientist, too. I actually wasn't a PhD at the time, but at the time I was in grad school for physics and doing science. And so I said, okay, let me talk to these scientists. I called that guy Dr. Berkey, who was just as suspicious over the phone as he was on camera. And that seemed odd to me. And then I ended up getting the radar data, and that's when I proved that the CIA animation was wrong. Basically, in the documentary, you see that it didn't fit the radar data, and basically, if the plane climbs sharply, like the CIA said it did, said it climbed sharply, right? Well, everyone knows when you ride a bicycle up a hill, you're going to slow down. And there was no reduction in airspeed for 12 seconds. And that was on the data that I received from the NTSB. Said, we proved it wrong. Scientists, yay, let's go. And then all of a sudden, I was invited to this press conference in C-SPAN, and I said, hey, the CIA is wrong here, but the media didn't. I think I wasn't quite clear on how. I didn't do the bicycle analogy, so no one picked up on it. And so little by little, it's just frustrating. I said here, it's like a watershed moment. If they can get away with this, they can get away with anything. Yeah.
Why? Why would they cover this up?
Well, one of the things that we avoid like the plague is speculating. And that's why this film has been successful and has not been successfully attacked, because first of all, we deal with somebody who's a trained scientist, and the rest of the whistleblowers that we have, the other 5 or 6 whistleblowers, were all people who handled the evidence and who had the expertise to assess it. And so we show you what we show you what the forensic evidence and their assessment, and we do not, and a lot of people are frustrated by that. A lot of people are frustrated when they watch this film. They go, well, why didn't they say who did it? It took us 17, 18 years just to get here. I mean, because this is not just about a plane crash. This is about multi-agency collusion.
But for what reason? For what reason?
But
what's your conjecture? What happened?
We will not do that.
I'm going to reiterate what Kristina just said here. This shows the multi-agency collusion, but also shows the collusion with the media. The same language that David Mayer gave in his testimony to the NTSB, Brian Williams was giving on his show. Exactly the same. Major Meyer's right here. They said Major Meyer saw this object, and then he saw the fireball, completely skipping his high-velocity explosions. And Brian Williams did it. David Mayer did it. There's some collusion going on even there.
What do you expect they're covering up? What do you think they're covering up?
Yeah, we're not going to, I know everybody wants to know, but we have, exactly. Once we start speculating, we become theorists of a type we don't want to be labeled as.
What happens is look, when you do this kind of work, you're very, very vulnerable to
Sure.
being discredited. So you have to stick with what you know and can prove. Okay, and that's how we've managed to get as far as we've gotten. Because the other thing is, too, is when you do a story like this, you can't just be, I'm no longer just an investigative reporter. Why? Because I have become an expert on this subject. I'm as much as, anybody can be in my position, and I have to do something about it. When you see something wrong, you have to do something. So now we have, as a result of this film, had to get involved in writing and submitting affidavits, writing petitions, trying to get these government agencies to do something. And it's almost a full-time job, and it's not remunerative. And you can, I certainly, financially, it's a disaster for us, but you feel responsible.
You keep going. You have to,
You
right?
have to.
So has the investigation been reopened? Will it be reopened?
I'm glad you asked that. No, in fact, you wouldn't, if you read their response to our petition. Well, we're going to give a full rebuttal to it, which it's laughable. They responded to the petition in the negative, and they hope
Who's
that
they?
the NTSB. That petition we were signing was an NTSB petition, but their response to the petition was about as ridiculous as you've seen right here. Their responses to everything else, and it's so easy to shoot down as a scientist, and we're going to shoot it down. But what's interesting is David Mayer, the villain on our film, the Mr. Fix-It, got promoted all the way to the top of the NTSB, became chief safety officer, chief managing director, as you saw, and it just so happens that he abruptly resigned together with the NTSB chairwoman, which we think is due to our petition, which I thought was great. But where did they send David Mayer? He is now, they made a new position at the MTA in New York.
Created a new position.
Chief Safety Officer of the MTA. And I hereby invite all of you to come with us on the 15th of December to the MTA board meeting, where we will be talking about that appointment. I think we're giving 2 minutes each.
Yes.
And if all of you come, that'll be a long time. So we hope, okay. If you, I'm serious, actually. We need all the help we can get. It'll be in New York City. I don't, it's the MTA board meeting, the 15th of this month.
At the MTA headquarters.
You just got to sign your name and you can talk for 2 minutes. Talk about what you saw and what you think of David Mayer. Yeah.
So let's take questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, it would seem like, given that all these people died, and the official story is that the plane itself blows up, obviously planes just shouldn't blow up, so in terms of a wrongful death suit, it would be millions and millions of dollars at stake for TWA. So my question would be, obviously TWA would, in that scenario, legally have a vested interest in it not being TWA's plane and being a missile. So my question is, what was TWA's response, and did they pay anything out for wrongful death?
No, the insurance companies were all involved in that, and that was sort of a, all these family members, the compensation of the family members was handled by various insurance companies, and it was all sort of done, you know, away from the public limelight. I mean, I do have a family member who sent me some information on their settlement and so on, but we really didn't look at that. What we did, what we wanted to do with this film is look at the physical evidence. We didn't want to do any speculating, any conjecture. Look at, yes?
What's the name of the passengers? Did anybody investigate that to see?
Again, the names of the passengers, that is circumstantial. That's circumstantial evidence. The thing that we really wanted to show was how the physical evidence points to an ordnance explosion.
No, I understand that, but what I'm trying to get at is, might there have been, and I know what you're saying, you can only say so much, people of interest on that flight that a missile, you know, went to go knock them off?
Yeah.
There must be-
we've
there must
looked
be
at-
many
Yeah, it's
conspiracy theories there.
speculation, and you know, believe me, yes.
Go ahead, sir. Yes.
I thought there was a squib in the Times saying this movie was going to be on an obscure cable station.
It was.
I couldn't find it.
Epics?
It was on Epics, yeah.
Yeah. And I just wondered.
It's on Netflix now, too.
It is? I
Yep.
was wondering if it was being
It's
allowed-
burning up on Netflix. Well, yeah, well, I will say this, and this is the first time I've said it publicly. Domestically, it's on Epics, and it's on Netflix, and it's doing extremely well on Netflix. Millions of people have seen it on Netflix. Our international distributor is basically killing the film for overseas distribution. It looks like that way because nothing's happening there.
Why do you
I
think?
won't mention who they are.
My point was, I thought at the time there was some speculation that the Navy had been testing anti-missile defenses or shooting missiles somewhere in the area, and if you had ever investigated that. That would give the government a reason to cover it up if the Navy was responsible. Right?
We can say factually that there were exercises in the Atlantic Ocean. We haven't found any very near the vicinity, but there were some going on that night. One of the closest planes was the Navy P-3. Yes, but again, what were they doing? All that, we haven't been able to uncover anything about that. It's either classified.
Again, we have have circumstantial
It's all
stuff
circumstantial,
that
yeah.
we're working on.
Doesn't mean, you know, if they're out there a lot, as I recall, so you can't just say because they were out there they did it. So
Yeah,
we couldn't go anywhere with it unless we're trying to get some documents right now, but until we get them, we can't really talk about it. Yeah.
Now, when you say that millions of people are watching it, what kinds of responses are you getting from the people who are seeing it?
Actually, on Netflix, for example, we've been rated over 130,000 times, I don't know, and we have a 4-star rating. And I think we've been reviewed like 425 times or something. And the reviews, obviously, if you have a 4-star rating, 4 out of 5, the reviews are quite positive.
And what does that do for you or for this your cause, if you will? Does it help?
Yes, and I'll explain to you. You know, as a result of the show, the Government Accountability Project in Washington, I don't know if you all have heard of them, but they're a whistleblower. They're a group that protect and help whistleblowers with legal. They give them legal help, and they are giving us legal help and advice for some very important initiatives that we have taken. And I'll tell you what the government accountability lawyer, Tom Devine, said to us, because I have to say, I felt it was such a blow when the NTSB not just rejected the petition, but rejected the petition so fraudulently that you're just, it's like, I can't explain to you. You say to yourself, well, the government is so corrupt, it makes you feel powerless. But what Tom Devine said, he goes, you know, every step of the way, everything that you do, you cannot expect these government agencies that have engaged in this malfeasance. We're talking about the FBI, we're talking about the CIA, we're talking about the NTSB, okay? I mean, that's 3 major agencies. He says, the only way that you're gonna get something to happen is you have to mount a campaign. So every time you do something, you submit the petition, or Hank Hughes has done an amazing, he has provided an amazing insider account of exactly how that cover-up was engineered. If you go on our website, flight800doc.com, you will see his affidavit. And it's like 49 pages long, and it's got as many exhibits. Everything is documented to within an inch of its life. And at some point, that affidavit is gonna blow this thing wide open.
How about the administration? Let's take it all the way to the top. What about, is there any culpability there with President Clinton?
Well, I mean, sure. Sure. If indeed, if there could possibly be, I'm not going to say sure, let me not say sure, there could possibly be. The whole thing is it's very strange. The CIA has never been involved in an NTSB investigation of a commercial, a mechanical failure.
Safe to say there's never been any accident like this ever in aviation history, ever?
There have been centering tank explosions before, but not mid-air like this on this type of aircraft, no. But about the previous question, we have internal CIA documents that says that there were some high-level administration officials that were being briefed by the CIA when they were doing their thing. Yes, and so it was a coordinated effort by someone, we don't know who, but someone, the leadership somewhere.
Tell them about the document. In one of the documents, it says.
Yeah, we published it. Yeah, it mentions Clinton, Louis Freeh, and George Tenet were being briefed by the CIA team that produced that animation.
Well, let's get a little testimonial here from one of the witnesses, Fred. What's your experience been?
Well, I have to turn this on.
But let me just say one last thing. That doesn't mean that they were culpable. They were being briefed by that agency. I find that suspicious, but it could be perfectly. They were just want to know what the CIA were up to. That doesn't mean anything more than what I just said.
I would like to go back to Carolyn. The Montreal Convention limits recovery for any passenger in an international flight to $100,000. So TWA would have a great interest in making this turn out to be an accident because it limits their recovery. And if it turned out to be something different, you know, it could just in one shot put them out of business.
Wouldn't it be good to approach you always follow the money on a lot of political things, and following the money here, obviously someone paid out millions of dollars, and if your scenario is correct, that it was a missile instead, couldn't one contact the people who paid the millions and say, look, we have this initial material, why don't you pay us as a team to look further so you can get your millions back?
The people who paid the millions were you. What do you think who paid for the investigation? Who paid for the cover-up? You did.
That's true.
We are actually almost at time. Let me just get one more question, sir.
In your documentary, towards the end, they have this theory that there were 3 separate missiles rising up, or 3 trajectories. And what would anybody try and investigate to determine if that is true? Does that differ with the eyewitness accounts?
The last part, what you did.
Does it differ with the eyewitness accounts of 1, and here you show 3?
Well, it was late in the documentary production period where, I mean, it was actually 4 in the morning when I was Skyping the interview with Vasilis Bakounis from Greece, where he said the simultaneous explosions. And I did the trajectory with what he said, the angle to the right, found out where he was. It didn't match the other 2. One came from close to shore, one came from under. I knew that within weeks of starting to interview the people. This just was weird. Some people say it went straight up, some people say it went out. You know, Angelides said it started way up there, 45 degrees, and went outbound. So quickly I determined that there must have been 2. I never bought into this 3-object scenario until that interview. And the reason for that is something that you have said throughout. He said this when he was interviewed by the NTSB, that there were 2, I wasn't sure if there were 1 or 2. There was 1 explosion, boom. Then there was 2 more, boom, boom. Which, you're agreeing with this, correct?
Yes,
okay.
But there were 4.
Right,
4
and then the 4th one was boom, and then the fireball was the 4th. But the 2 in the middle, Bakounis said 2 simultaneous explosions. And he also said the trajectory. I looked back, and the trajectory is a head-on trajectory. That's not consistent with the other 2. And I went to Kristina, and I said, look, Kristina, I think there might have been 3. And she said, you put what you think. And that's why we did it. And I know that it sort of comes out of nowhere here, but we put here what the evidence shows. And it doesn't matter if people say, that doesn't sound right. It's really what shows. And it was Bakounis that did it, the double simultaneous boom, boom, consistent with his. Because I always thought when you said that, I was like, he must not be remembering correctly. But it was, Bakounis confirmed what you said.
And so where will this be shown? I mean, it's on Netflix now, but will it be at other film festivals, or what are your plans? It already has been, right?
It was at the Traverse City Film Festival. It was also in Kansas City. You know, we've been to a few, but for us, it's very, very hard, because for us, it's important to pursue the active. By the way, we are selling our DVD outside for $20, which helps us a great deal to continue this effort to break open the case. But you know, you have to choose whether you're going to try and market the hell out of the film, or you're going to try and get justice for these family members, and also try and do something about this corruption. I mean, it's obviously our story is just one story in so many now. You know, the NSA stories, the bank stories, and so on. So you've got to take, you know, we're trying to take bricks out of this wall of corruption in Washington, and so that's what we're focusing on.
Well, our time is up, but thank you so much, and thank you, more to come. Thank you.